Imagine it's a crisp Saturday afternoon in East London. You've just navigated the chaotic labyrinth of the Westfield shopping centre, dodging tourists who think the Hammers is a type of construction tool and people aggressively trying to sell you overpriced pretzels. You finally arrive at the London Stadium, take your seat, which is located roughly 3 postcodes away from the actual pitch, and the music starts. I'm forever blowing bubbles, pretty bubbles in the air. It's beautiful, it's iconic, it's one of the most spine-tingling anthems in world football. But then, the bubbles pop, they fade and die, and tragically, so does your optimism. Because you are a West Ham fan, and you have chosen a life where the anthem is literally a metaphor for disappointment. The song explicitly tells you that fortune's always hiding. It's not a chant, it's a disclaimer. It's a legal warning read out before kickoff so you can't sue the club for emotional distress later. Being a Hammer isn't just about supporting a football team, it's about enduring a psychological experiment on the limits of human patience. It's the constant oscillation between we are massive and we are getting relegated. It's having a trophy cabinet that features a glorious European night in Prague, sitting right next to decades of absolute mediocrity and baffling administrative decisions. It is the Academy of Football that somehow forgot to teach the first team how to defend set pieces. Welcome to the Claret and Blue misery machine. Welcome to the torture. Welcome to West Ham United. 1. The identity crisis. What even is the West Ham way? Let's start with the most confusing concept in the Premier League, the West Ham way. If you ask a fan from the 1960s, they'll tell you it's about free-flowing, attacking football, Bobby Moore's elegance, and winning the World Cup for England. If you ask a fan from 2025, they'll look you dead in the eye, take a long drag of a cigarette and say, it's about conceding a goal in the 89th minute to a team that hasn't scored since October. The problem with the West Ham way is that it's a ghost. It's a myth that haunts every manager who walks through the door. You spent years screaming for David Moyes to leave because the football was dour and defensive, even though he actually won you a European trophy. Then you get a manager who promises progressive possession, and suddenly you're losing 4-1 at home while holding 65% of the ball. This is the paradox. You demand champagne football on a beer budget, but when the club actually buys champagne ingredients, they try to mix it in a dirty bucket. Look at the managerial merry-go-round. You went from Big Sam Allardyce, survival at all costs, to Slaven Bilic, vibes and passion but no defence, to Pellegrini, expensive failure, to Moyes, results but ugly, to the shiny new tactical project that usually ends in tears. The club has no DNA. It's a Frankenstein's monster of conflicting ideas. One minute you're signing technically gifted Brazilians. The next, you're trying to sign Harry Maguire to headbutt the ball into the stands. Being a fan here is like dating someone who changes their entire personality every 6 months. I'm into jazz now, they say, signing a playmaker. 6 months later, actually, I'm into heavy metal, signing a fridge-sized centre-back. You never know what team is going to turn up. The only constant is chaos. The West Ham way isn't a style of play. It's just code for we will make this harder than it needs to be. So you sit there, watching your team pass the ball sideways against a relegation candidate, wondering if Bobby Moore is looking down from heaven with pride or if he's just covering his eyes. You wanted attractive football? Too bad. You're getting a frantic scramble in the box and a 1-1 draw. That is the true West Ham way. 2. The stadium. A soulless bowl in a shopping mall. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Or rather, the elephant living in a rented apartment in Stratford. The move from the Blinn ground to the London Stadium is the defining trauma of the modern West Ham fan. Upton Park was hostile, tight, intimidating, and smelled like history and onions. It was a fortress where opposition players felt the breath of the fans on their necks. The London Stadium? It's an athletics bowl that thinks it's a football ground. Imagine inviting your friends over for a dinner party, but you set the table in your neighbour's garage while he's still trying to park his car. That's the vibe. You are technically home, but it feels like you're squatting in an Airbnb. The distance between the stands and the pitch is so vast that you're not watching a football match. You're watching a rumour of a football match. You need the Hubble telescope to see if that was a handball or just a trick of the light. And then there's the atmosphere. Don't get me wrong, West Ham fans are loud. They are some of the wittiest, loudest fans in the country. But acoustic physics is a cruel mistress. The sound doesn't trap inside the stadium. It escapes through the massive gaps in the roof, drifting off to be heard by shoppers in Zara, while the pitch remains eerily quiet. It's hard to intimidate an opposition winger when you're shouting abuse from a different postcode. Let's not forget the tourist factor. Because the stadium is in the Olympic Park and next to a mega mall, half the crowd on a match day consists of people holding Primark bags who just wandered in because they saw lights. You're trying to start a chant about the referee's incompetence, and the guy next to you is asking if this is where the opening ceremony happened in 2012. It dilutes the rage. It dilutes the passion. The club sold you a dream of next-level football in a world-class stadium. What you got was scaffolding covered in claret carpet and a relentless desire to buy popcorn. You traded your soul for more seats, but half the time, those seats are filled by the crushing silence of a 0-2 deficit. The Blin ground had a heartbeat. The London Stadium has a high-tech scoreboard and a running track covered by AstroTurf. It's corporate, it's shiny, and it feels absolutely nothing like home. 3. The striker graveyard, where goal scorers go to die. There are certain laws of physics that cannot be broken. Gravity pulls things down, light travels faster than sound, and West Ham United will ruin a striker's career. This isn't an opinion. This is a statistical anomaly that defies logic. Over the last decade, West Ham has spent a GDP-sized amount of money on centre-forwards, and the success rate is lower than a strictly blindfolded darts player. It's where goal scorers go to forget how legs work. Let's look at the roll call of pain. Sebastian Haller, signed for a club record fee, looked like he'd never seen a football before, left, and immediately became a goal machine in the Champions League. Gianluca Scamacca, a tattooed Italian giant who was supposed to be the new Di Canio. He spent a year looking confused, scored a couple of bangers, got injured, and fled back to Italy. Simone Zaza, remembered solely for a penalty run-up that looked like a horse doing dressage before blasting the ball into orbit. It goes deeper. Lucas Perez, Albion Ajeti, Jordan Hugill, Borja Baston, Danny Ings. The list reads like a memorial service for lost talent. The club has an obsession with buying strikers who don't fit the system, playing them in a way that exposes their weaknesses, and then acting shocked when they don't score. Why isn't this slow target man running in behind the defence? Maybe because he turns with the turning circle of the Titanic, you absolute walnuts. And the irony? For years, the only man you could rely on was Mikel Antonio, a man who isn't even a trained striker, runs like he's wearing unlaced Timberlands, and has hamstrings made of wet tissue paper. He is a chaotic force of nature who somehow outlasted every expensive replacement brought in to take his job. You spend 40 million on a shiny new forward, and by October you're back to lumping long balls up to Antonio because at least he knows how to bully a centre-back. Being a West Ham fan is watching your club sign a striker with a 20-goal-a-season record, rubbing your hands together in glee, and then watching him finish the season with 2 goals, 4 yellow cards, and a loan move to Turkey. It's not just bad scouting, it's a curse. At this point you could sign Erling Haaland, and within 3 weeks he'd be isolated up front chasing lost causes and eventually sold to Fenerbahce for a loss. So, when the transfer window opens and you see West Ham interested in insert prolific striker name, don't get excited. Send them a get well soon card. Their career's about to be buried under the turf of the London Stadium. 4. The boardroom. Promises, propaganda, and the next level. If there is one thing West Ham fans hate more than a VAR decision going against them, it's the phrase, next level. It's the 2 words that were sold to you when the club packed up its bags at Upton Park and moved to the borrowed athletics track. You were promised that leaving your spiritual home would propel the club into the elite. You were promised Champions League nights. You were promised a team that could rival the biggest in Europe. Instead, for the better part of a decade, you got a boardroom that felt like it was running a circus rather than a football club. David Sullivan and the late David Gold, God rest his soul, but the tenure was chaotic, were the duo famously dubbed the Dildo Brothers by rival fans due to their adult industry past. But for you, the frustration wasn't their background, it was their foreground. It was the penny pinching, it was the public spats. It was the feeling that the club was a shiny asset to be flipped for profit rather than a sporting institution. And let's not forget Karen Brady, the Baroness. Nothing boils the blood of a Hammer quite like reading her weekly newspaper column where she discusses high finance, The Apprentice or interior design, while the team is currently sitting 17th in the table. The disconnect is staggering. You're worried about relegation. The board is worried about the interest rates on the stadium popcorn. The ownership style is best described as chaos management. They love a leak. They love a public statement. Remember when the board publicly released a statement saying the manager, David Moyes, had their full support, which in football terms is usually the signal for the executioner to sharpen the axe. The relationship between the fans and the board is so toxic it's practically radioactive. You've had pitch invasions, protests outside the director's box, and black balloons released on the pitch. Even when they do spend money, it feels reluctant, or worse, performative. They'll throw $30 million at a player just to quell a riot, not because it fits a strategic plan. It's like a negligent parent buying their kid a pony because they forgot to pick them up from school 3 days in a row. Look, here's a shiny new Brazilian midfielder. Please stop shouting "sack the board" for 5 minutes. It's exhausting. You aren't just fighting the opposition, you're fighting the feeling that the people running your club view you as a customer with a wallet, not a supporter with a heart. 5. The transfer window, the art of the public failure. Being a West Ham fan during the transfer window is a specific type of masochism. While other clubs quietly identify targets, negotiate deals and announce signings, West Ham turns every negotiation into a reality TV drama. It's known as the West Ham way of doing business. Step 1. Identify a player everyone knows is good. Step 2. Make an insulting opening bid that is $10 million below the asking price. Step 3. Leak to the press that you tried really hard. Step 4. Panic on deadline day and sign a 34-year-old on high wages who hasn't played in 6 months. The club has historically been obsessed with the Sully special, players that David Sullivan seemingly found by scrolling through Transfermarkt or watching YouTube highlights from 2018. We have a director of football now, Tim Stuyton, which was supposed to fix things, but instead it just created a civil war. You had the manager wanting Premier League veterans, give me Harry Maguire, and the director of football wanting continental gems, give me technical players from the Bundesliga. The result? A squad that looks like 2 different people packed for the same holiday without talking to each other. One packed ski gear, the other packed a bikini. And then there are the sagas. Oh, the sagas. West Ham doesn't just fail to sign players, they fail loudly. They will spend 3 months publicly chasing a striker who has absolutely no intention of joining. It's embarrassing. It's like watching your friend propose to a supermodel in the middle of a crowded food court, only to be rejected, and then claiming, "She was thinking about it." No, she wasn't. Every summer you refresh Twitter, or X, whatever, waiting for the famous "here we go." Instead, you get, "West Ham have withdrawn from negotiations due to agent fees." It's the club's catchphrase. You have the money, allegedly, you have the stadium, unfortunately, and you have the Premier League status. Yet, you constantly act like a small market trader trying to barter for a fake Rolex. By the time the window closes, you're usually left with a squad that is 3 injuries away from a crisis, wondering why you let your best young players leave while keeping the deadwood. 6. The Robin Hood complex. We are massive, occasionally. There is a psychological condition known as West Ham syndrome. The symptoms are simple. The team is physically incapable of winning a game they are expected to win, yet they will turn into 1970s Brazil when playing the league leaders. West Ham is the Robin Hood of the Premier League. They steal points from the rich and gift them generously to the poor. You will go away to the Emirates or the Etihad. You will put in a defensive masterclass. You will counter-attack with precision. You will win 2-0 against a team chasing the title. The fan base will erupt. "We are massive," you scream. You create memes. You declare that you are pushing for the top 4. You check the passport expiration dates for next year's Champions League tour. And then, 7 days later, you play a team that is currently bottom of the league, has fired 3 managers this season, and hasn't scored a goal since Christmas. And you lose. You don't just lose, you get battered. It is the most infuriating aspect of the fandom. You cannot enjoy the big wins because you know, deep in your bones, that the banter tax is coming. Beating Manchester United feels great, but you know you're going to pay for it by losing 3-0 to Nottingham Forest or Brentford. It's the hope that kills you. If the team was just bad, you could accept it. If they were consistently mediocre, you could live with it. But they show you flashes of brilliance. Jared Bowen tearing defences apart, Lucas Paquetá doing things with a football that shouldn't be legal, just to lull you into a false sense of security. This inconsistency makes you look insane to other fans. One week you're arguing that your squad is elite, the next you're calling into a radio show demanding the entire starting assistant be sold to a glue factory. You are the wildest fluctuating stock on the market. "We are massive" started as a joke, became a genuine belief during the European Conference League run, and has now settled into a sarcastic coping mechanism. You sing it when you're winning, you sing it when you're losing. But deep down you know the truth. You aren't massive. You're simply West Ham, and West Ham exists to raise your hopes just high enough that the fall breaks every bone in your body. 7. The Academy of Football for other clubs. If there is one moniker West Ham fans cling to like a life raft in a storm, it's the Academy of Football. It's printed on the stadium walls, it's in the history books, it's the pride of the East End. You gave the world Bobby Moore, Geoff Hurst and Martin Peters. You essentially won the 1966 World Cup for England while the rest of the country just watched. But let's be brutally honest about the modern iteration of the Academy. You're basically a luxury farm for the Big Six. Being a West Ham fan means watching a local lad rise through the ranks, fall in love with the club, kiss the badge, become world class, and then immediately leave to win trophies for Chelsea, Manchester United or Arsenal. It is a cycle of heartbreak that is as predictable as the tides. Look at the list. Rio Ferdinand, gone to Leeds, then Man United. Frank Lampard, hounded out by fans who called him fat, only for him to go to Chelsea and become one of the greatest midfielders in Premier League history. Joe Cole, gone. Michael Carrick, gone. Jermaine Defoe, gone. And then, the freshest wound of all, Declan Rice. Declan was the chosen one, the captain, the heartbeat. He held the Conference League trophy aloft, and for a brief moment, you thought, maybe this time is different. Maybe we can keep him. But deep down, you knew. You watched him leave for Arsenal for $105 million. And sure, the money's great. It's a record fee. But you can't play a bag of cash in central midfield. The worst part isn't just that they leave, it's seeing them succeed. You have to watch Lampard lift the Champions League. You have to watch Carrick dominate for a decade at Old Trafford. You have to watch Rice competing for Premier League titles while you're scraping a draw against Ipswich Town. You are the surrogate mother of English football. You do all the hard work, the birthing, the nurturing, and then a rich family from West London adopts the baby and takes all the credit. So, when you see a brilliant new 18-year-old making his debut at the London Stadium, you don't feel hope. You feel a preemptive sense of loss. You don't think, he's going to be a legend for us. You think, I wonder how much Man City will pay for him in 2027. 8. The rivalry complex. Unrequited hate. Hating other teams is a core part of football fandom. But at West Ham, the hatred is complicated. It's messy. It's basically a one-sided relationship where you are screaming at a brick wall, and the brick wall is looking at its phone. Let's start with Millwall. This is the rivalry. Green Street hooligans, the Dockers, the history. It is visceral and violent. The only problem? You never play them. They're usually in the Championship or League One. The rivalry is like a dormant volcano or a long-distance relationship with an ex-convict. It's intense in theory, but in practice, it's mostly just people shouting at each other on Twitter about things that happened in 2009. Then there's Tottenham. Oh, how you hate Tottenham. Beating Spurs is your Super Bowl. If West Ham beats Spurs 1-0, the season is a success, regardless of where you finish in the table. You treat that derby like it's the Battle of Thermopylae. You bring the noise, the passion, the fire. The painful reality? Spurs don't care about you as much as you care about them. Sure, they dislike you. They think you're annoying. But their eyes are on Arsenal. They want to beat Arsenal. You are the annoying younger cousin trying to start a fight at the family barbecue while they are staring at their arch nemesis across the lawn. It stings, doesn't it? To hate them with every fibre of your being, only for them to treat the fixture as just another tricky away game. And finally, Chelsea, the rich neighbours. You hate them for their money, their success, and the fact that they keep buying your best players. But again, they look down on you. To them, West Ham is a quaint little club they visit once a year to collect 3 points, or occasionally lose in a funny upset. Being a West Ham fan is living in a state of constant agitation against rivals who are either irrelevant Millwall or indifferent Spurs Chelsea. You're constantly looking for a fight, but the only people truly willing to fight you are other West Ham fans. 9. The fan base civil war. The moaners versus the happy clappers. If you think the players are confused, You should see the fan base. The West Ham fan base is currently locked in a perpetual state of civil war that makes the geopolitical landscape look stable. There are two distinct tribes within the London Stadium, and they hate each other almost as much as they hate the board. On one side, you have the traditionalists, often labelled as moaners or bedwetters by the other side. These guys remember the West Ham way. They demand attacking football. They would rather lose 4-3 than win 1-0. They hated David Moyes even when he was winning because the football was ugly. They are cynical, loud, and constantly furious. They believe the club should be challenging for the top 6 every year and refuse to settle for mediocrity. To them, 14th place is an insult to the heritage of the club. On the other side, you have the realists, often labelled as happy clappers or bored apologists. These guys remember the dark days. They remember the relegations. They remember the near bankruptcy. They look at a 9th place finish and say, "This is stability. Be grateful." They think the traditionalists are delusional. "Who do you think we are? Real Madrid," they scream. "We are West Ham. Survival is success." This creates a toxic atmosphere where no result satisfies everyone. Win 1-0 playing defensive football. The traditionalists boo because it was boring. The realists cheer the 3 points. Lose 4-3 playing attacking football. The traditionalists applaud the effort. The realists scream about the naivety. You can't win. Even when you win, you lose. You log onto social media after a match and instead of celebrating, you're arguing with Dave from Essex about XG, expected goals, and tactical low blocks. It is exhausting. You aren't just fighting the opposition, the referees and the board. You are fighting your own reflection. The fan base is a fractured mirror, and every shard is sharp enough to cut you. 10. The Prague Paradox. Peaking in high school. Let's talk about that night in Prague. June 7th, 2023. Jared Bowen running through on goal in the 90th minute. The ball hitting the back of the net. The ecstasy. The tears. West Ham United, European champions. Okay, Conference League champions, but who's counting? We are. We are counting. It was the greatest night of your life. It was the moment all the suffering paid off. You watched Declan Rice lift that trophy and thought, "This is it. We've arrived. We are a serious club now." But here is the cruel twist. That trophy didn't launch a dynasty. It just gave you a really expensive shield to hide behind while the house burned down. Winning that trophy was like peaking in high school. You're now the guy at the bar wearing his varsity jacket at age 45, telling anyone who will listen about that one touchdown he scored in 1998. Every time the team loses 5-0 to Fulham, yes, that happened, you whisper to yourself, "Champions of Europe." Every time you get knocked out of the FA Cup by a championship side, you tweet a picture of the trophy. It has become a crutch. It also created the Moyes paradox. You wanted him gone because the football was prehistoric, but he gave you the greatest moment in modern history. So you were stuck in this weird limbo where you couldn't fire the guy who made you happy, even though he was currently making you miserable. When he finally left and Julen Lopetegui came in, you thought, "Here comes the Spanish Revolution. Tiki-taka time." Instead, you got chaos. You realised that maybe the boring defensive structure was the only thing keeping you from conceding 4 goals every game. The hangover from Prague is real. You're constantly chasing that high, buying expensive players, Kudus, Somerville, Füllkrug, expecting them to recreate the magic, but the chemistry is gone. You are a club living in the shadow of a single Wednesday night in the Czech Republic, terrified that it was a fluke rather than a foundation. So you cling to that memory. You watch the highlights on YouTube when you're sad. But deep down, you know the truth. The bubbles flew high that night, but they've been popping ever since. Final thoughts. The addiction to misery. So, why do we do it? Why do you wake up every morning, check the news, see that your star player is being linked with Man City, and your manager is under pressure, and think, "Yes, I'll have some more of that, please"? Because being a West Ham fan isn't about glory. If you wanted glory, you'd support City or Liverpool. If you wanted stability, you'd support... Well, actually, there is no stability in football, but you get the point. No, being a West Ham fan is about the narrative. It's about the dark humour. It's about the shared trauma. There is a specific camaraderie in the London Stadium when you are 2-0 down at home to Crystal Palace. You look at the guy next to you, he looks at you, and you both just laugh. It's a laugh that says, "Of course this is happening. We are West Ham." You are addicted to the drama. If West Ham suddenly became a well-run, efficient winning machine that won the league by 15 points, you wouldn't know what to do with yourself. You'd be bored. You need the chaos. You need the disastrous transfers. You need the board leaks. You need the imminent threat of relegation to make the moments of safety feel like triumphs. The anthem tells you everything you need to know. Fortune's always hiding. You aren't singing about victory. You're singing about a permanent search for something you can't find. You're the Sisyphus of the Premier League, pushing a massive boulder up a hill, only for the boulder to roll back down and crush your new striker's metatarsal. But you'll be there next week, and the week after. You'll renew your season ticket, you'll buy the new kit, you'll convince yourself that this transfer window will be the one that changes everything. Because you are a hammer, and while the dreams might be broken, and the stadium might be soulless, and the trophy cabinet might be dusty, it's your misery, and you wouldn't trade it for the world. So, see you on Saturday. Don't forget your tissues, and keep blowing those bubbles, even if they pop in your face every single time.